Hey there, Captain Wetbeard here, and welcome to the best PC releases of March 2022. Every month I follow all the new releases so you don't have to, and I put together a list of all the most interesting entries for the month. And this month we have 13 entries, including a pretty enjoyable puzzle game in number 2 that I like quite a bit, and it hasn't been getting anywhere near enough love. But let's go ahead and jump right back into it. Astronomist is a side-scrolling roguelike bullet hell. It's got a pretty excellent retro aesthetic to it. It reminds me a lot of games on the NES or maybe the Amiga, with a variety of weapons and power-ups to choose from, and a decent number of enemies. They run some NPCs along the way that'll try and sell you stuff, and have some pretty okay dialogue from what I've seen. I haven't gotten too far into this, but I'm having pretty good time so far. It doesn't look like very many people are talking about this one yet, so I definitely recommend going and checking it out on Steam. Give this small developer some love. Bomb Club Deluxe is a puzzle game based on chain reactions. You start a level with some bombs already on the field, and you need to explode all of them in a single chain reaction using bombs that you place. There's a massive variety of different kinds of bombs. They all have different effects, and they'll each operate a little bit differently. The puzzles in this game will make you think. When the game first starts off, it seems like it's going to be pretty easy, but it gets fairly challenging rather quickly. I completed the first world the other night, and I'm probably going to try and 100% this one over the next few days, because I've just been having an absolute blast with it. This one came out on the 1st of March, and there's still only 8 user reviews on the Steam page, which kind of blows me away. Because this is a fantastic game. It's one of the best puzzle games I've played in a really long time. Give this one a look if you like puzzle games and brightly colored explosions. Cat Museum is a supremely trippy point-and-click adventure game that in some ways reminds me of another one called Strangeland. If you're familiar with that one, you should probably check this one out too. It's mostly psychological horror, and it's just mind-bending. Fix Fox is one of the games that I demoed for Next Fest. I was impressed with it then, and I'm even more impressed with it now. You play as a fox out in space, traveling the universe, working on repairing bits of machinery here and there. And as a repairman, you'll need to bring some lateral thinking skills. You won't always have the right tool for the job, but if you look in your inventory, you might find that one of the items you have can be used as a tool. Most items will be labeled with descriptors such as sticky or flat that tell you what kinds of jobs you can use them for. You'll often need to improvise a screwdriver or some tape, and figuring out how to use the items you pick up is part of the fun. Fixfox brings to the table a lot of the magic that really made point-and-click adventure games great, without really fitting into that genre. And that's one of the things that really made it interesting to me. It released on March 31st, so it just barely made it into the video. And if it sounds like something you'd enjoy, you'll find a link in the description below. Gunboard Dark Matters is a 2D action platformer that mostly stands out to me due to the innovative implementation of the shield. It can be used like a surfboard to get over obstacles, or to slam down on enemies dealing damage. It's just an awesome mechanic to play around with. There's a free demo available on Steam, so at the very least I recommend checking that out, and if you like it, you can pick up a copy. Hyperbolica is an open-world, non-Euclidean adventure game. And that by itself is very impressive to me. The engine is absolutely amazing, and there's a lot of potential there. But I do need to point out most of what's here is potential. The engine is extremely impressive, and there's mini games, puzzles, and mazes, but most of that stuff's pretty easy, and it's pretty easy to get lost. The story's only so-so, but the devs did say that they're going to make mod tools available, so that those interested in playing around with the engine will be able to do so. The fact that somebody managed to build a non-Euclidean adventure game in Unity at all is extremely impressive. For me, the novelty isn't enough to fully sell me on it, so I'm going to hold off on buying a copy until the mod tools are released, and maybe until a couple really good mods come out. Mini Islandroma is the latest stop in the Mini Island Challenge, an ongoing series I enjoy quite a bit. For those unfamiliar with the Mini Island Challenge, it's a series of short games that each act as a single level in a larger, overarching game. Mini Island Challenge is a side-scrolling bullet hell game. It's very difficult but fair. With each new game release, the dev makes small little innovations, adds new types of enemies, and changes up the color palette and soundtrack. As usual, the soundtrack is absolutely excellent, the art's breathtaking, It's got all those colorful explosions that just make the dopamine pop. If you're interested, you can find a link to Mini Islandroma in the description below. Up next is Gunboard, which is I think the only relaxing platformer I've ever played. You surf on bubbles of sound through colorful landscapes, and it's an extremely chill experience. It kind of reminds me of games like Flower, which are pretty great when you're stressed out or just in a bad mood. Speaking of Flower, a bit of Bud might enhance the experience. Patrick's Parabox is a trippy puzzle game about boxes inside boxes. It's hundreds of levels, each of which introduces new concepts. So nothing ever gets stale, there's no filler. It's a lot of fun. There's a free demo available on Steam too, which covers basically the first two worlds. So there's really no reason not to try it. But I had an absolute blast playing through it. For some reason it kind of reminded me of Baba Is You. Not really sure why. But it kind of scratches the same sort of itch. I'm not really familiar with any other games quite like it, to be honest. Spirit of Shotgun is a 2D platformer where your only method of getting around is to blast with your shotgun. There's only one other game I can think of that reminds me of this, and that would be Getting Over It. Much like Getting Over It, Spirit of Shotgun is designed for those who need to overcome the harshest challenges, who need to beat the hardest games, and are willing to try over and over and over and over and over again to overcome their frustration and get that win. The people who, the harder a game is, the more satisfying the victory becomes. I'll admit, this game isn't for me. And it may not be for you. And that's just fine. This Means Warp is like if you took FTL Faster Than Light, crossed that with Catastronauts, and then made that a roguelike. I know, that's kind of a lot to conceptualize, but hear me out. It's a 1 to 4 player game that takes place in space. You'll be working together with your crewmates to try and keep your ship flying, fight opponents as they show up, in combat very similar to how it worked in FTL, and you just generally try and make it to the end. The decisions you make will make a huge difference because they can determine what sort of events you come across. The consequences of some of those events can be quite catastrophic if they go wrong, or it can help give you that edge you need to succeed. You'll have to fight several boss battles on the way through, but if you work together with a little bit of trial and error, I think you'll have a pretty good time. The night this came out, me and my fiance played it for several hours, and it was an absolute blast. So. Tunic is something special. It's an isometric action RPG that feels like a real love letter to old Legend of Zelda. The puzzles feel properly challenging. The combat is frustrating at times, but it's fair. There's just countless mysteries to find. The world feels like it's alive. With a lot of games and fantasy worlds in general, it feels like the world sort of centers on the player. The world where Tunic takes place feels like it doesn't actually care about the player at all. You're just this small, insignificant little fox. When you accomplish something big, it really feels like you've earned it. If you're a fan of the older Legend of Zelda games, and you want to see what a modern one could be, consider picking up a copy of Tunic on Steam. Weird West is kind of like Fallout crossed with Call of Cthulhu. Got a fantastic soundtrack, fast-paced gameplay, and several different stories to play through, that all kind of tie together. Haven't gotten too deep into this one yet, but I expect I'm going to play it all the way to the end. Alright, well I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you found something interesting to play. If so, consider supporting me on Ko-fi, links in the description below, and share this video with a friend, because word of mouth helps small channels like mine grow. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night. Peace out.